Welcome to Baransu Balance Podcast. 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups in 5 minutes? Is this the Sheldon Eakins I know? Dr. Eakins grew up in Houston, Texas, where I first met him. He is an educator, author, well-known speaker, and podcaster, and now a competitive bodybuilder. Dr. Sheldon Eakins gives his story about how he went from being overweight and recovering from a divorce in the middle of the pandemic to being a competitive bodybuilder. He shares his insights on building a proactive self-care plan that includes regular activities and hobbies. As a physician and healthy lifestyle advocate, I have been more and more convinced about the importance of muscle strengthening exercise. Muscle building and maintenance are not just for bodybuilders. Benefits range from boosting your metabolism, decreasing the risk of falls, decreasing your risk of diabetes, and living longer. Stay tuned to hear from bodybuilder, educator, Dr. Sheldon Eakins. Remember, this podcast is for educational purposes only and does not substitute for professional medical advice. It is important to seek the advice of your personal doctor or healthcare provider before undertaking a new health regimen.
Baransu Balance Podcast. Balance of the mind, body, and soul helps us navigate the storms of life. Balance emphasizes the close relationship between mental and physical health. Balance says that a spiritual life and hope for tomorrow is essential. Dr. Ince is a semi-retired medical oncologist and health enthusiast nerd. This podcast is a lively, informative conversation between an older generation who have often said, "If I knew then what I know now," and a techno-smart, "I don't want to be stressed out" younger generation. The host and guests exchange wisdom on how to live a balanced, healthy, and fulfilled life, despite today's exhausting ups and downs.
Hello, welcome Dr. Sheldon Eakins to our first podcast of the Baransu Balance Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So our goal is to discuss the importance of the balance between the mind, body, and soul. And today we are going to talk about the body, a little bit about how you got into bodybuilding. And can you tell me a little bit about yourself, Dr. Eakins?
Sure. Well, I'm originally from Houston, Texas. I currently live in Idaho, Pocatello, Idaho, to be exact. That's a long story how I ended up here. But I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of let myself go after you get married and had kids, and I just got to a place where, as an educator, I was, working in schools, and I've been school principal. And I even worked in higher education. That's why I moved here in the first place, because I got a job at Idaho State University. And as a result, I had gained a lot of weight. And so there was a point in my life where I said, you know what, I want to be healthier. I want to do right. I want to be around for my kids as they get older. I do a lot of keynote speaking, and I'm on stage a lot, and I don't want to be huffing and puffing while I'm moving around on stage. And so I just decided about 3 years ago to really take health and fitness more seriously. So nowadays I compete, and we can talk about that more, but that's just a little bit about me in a nutshell.
So you mentioned 3 years ago. 3 years ago, we were smack dab in the middle of the pandemic, a time when a lot of us went from working outside of the home, which required doing a lot of walking, to staying at home, didn't necessarily have to dress up. We got comfortable with our sweats. And so I guess we got rid of the mirrors and the scales at that point. But tell me, I know a little bit about you. I think I've known you for a few years, and a little bit about your family. Tell me about what inspired you to
get back on this fitness journey, and specifically about your family?
Well, I went okay. So like I said, I was a dad, or I'm still a dad, but I it got to a point where I was putting on a pair of shorts. I remember vividly, I was putting on a pair of pants, and they were at the time I was wearing a size 38 waist, and it got to the point where I needed to go back to the store and get a larger size. I was going to start breaking into the 40s, and I was 220 pounds, and I was like, okay, I could either go to the store and buy this pair of size 40 pants, or I can try to do something about it. In addition to that, I was also in the process of going through a divorce, which was kind of more motivation as well to kind of just do better for myself, just kind of working through that process. And so with all of those together, it was just like there was a pivotal epiphany, light switch went off. And I was like, it's time for you to take things seriously. I mean, just like you said, I mean, pandemic was happening. We're at home. And I started using like home gym workouts. So I subscribed to the Beachbody workout programs and took on Insanity as one of my programs and some of the other popular programs. It was funny because a lot of our gyms closed down during this time, but like all those online services, they were providing like all kind of specials. It was like 3 months free, and buy this and get one free. So I took advantage of that and started doing the home workouts, and it just kind of caught back on, and you start seeing results, and you started working out more and more. And again, that was very therapeutic for me as I was kind of dealing with stuff personally. And I just kept going.
Okay, so Sheldon, you mentioned that you were going through the stress of the end of marriage, and that this exercise help your mind as well.
Mm-hmm.
And was that your experience, and is that what you recommend to your kids and friends as a way of one tool for coping with stress?
Yeah, prior to the, going through separation and all that, I was familiar with self-care plans, but I always thought self-care plans were something that you do when you have issues. And I didn't know, I had a good friend of mine, his name is TJ. He does self-care counseling. This is what he does. He works in schools. And I interviewed him for one of my shows, and he taught me, he's like, no, self-care plan is not supposed to be reactive. It's supposed to be proactive, right? You're supposed to be having a level of, these are the things that I do, like hobbies. This is what I do when I'm not working, when I'm not, with family. This is what I do for myself. But that is something that you maintain on a daily basis. It's not when you need it the most. It should already be part of your daily process and regimen. And that's something I learned. And once he kind of taught me how to prepare a self-care plan, going to the gym was that for me. I enjoy working out. I enjoy lifting weights. I love putting the earbuds in my ear and listening to my favorite playlists and just really just kind of zone out. And if I can spend an hour doing the things that I love to do in my zone, in my own comfort level, as there's times I have a rough day. There's times when I get into an argument with someone, or there's times when I'm just stressed. I work for myself, and sometimes when you work for yourself, there's a level of stress that you take on, making sure your bills are paid and planning all these different things and your kids and all these things. And sometimes it's like, you know what, I'm gonna go take a walk at the wellness center out here. I'm just going to, walk a couple miles, or, you know what, I'm going to go hit some weights, or, you know what, I'm going to go to this park down the road that I love to go to and just do a bunch of pull-ups or a bunch of push-ups. So I try to vary it, but just physical activity, cardio, those kind of things are very helpful for me. Now, some other folks, maybe going to get a massage or maybe going to do something else is part of their self-care plan. But I am, after talking to my friend TJ, I am a strong proponent, and I preach this to everybody I know, any kids, everybody. find a hobby, find something that's nice escape for you when you're dealing with whatever it is, but don't wait till those moments happen. Put it in your daily regimen, and so that way it's part of a routine, it's part of what you do, but don't wait till it's too late to start doing those kind of things and looking at it as a self-care. Oh, I'm in, I'm traumatic, or I'm dealing with stress, and so I need to find something to do. No, this should be something that you already are doing on a daily basis.
I I absolutely agree. I'm a semi-retired physician, and a lot of the physicians that I know of work from morning to night,
Mhm.
but they do not, often they don't have that outlet. And I remember back in college, running the track, pounding on the piano were, therapeutic to me.
Yeah.
Now, so I want to ask you, Sheldon, for someone who is um, a wannabe stronger physical person, and I've been on the kind of the slim side my whole life, but I had a big birthday coming up, and so I was going to the gym and trying to buff up. But what are the baby steps that you would recommend starting out when you're trying to strengthen your muscles?
So I would say this: I'm about 60 pounds lighter than I was, it's funny because yesterday was my birthday and I just turned 40, and I just was telling some of my friends, I'm like, I'm in the best shape that I've ever been in my entire life. I mean, I remember
Happy
I
birthday.
would thank you, thank you.
Uh,
I remember being, in my 20s, college days, even high school days. I mean, this is the best shape I've ever been in. And so for those that I posted a couple of videos and some pictures online on Facebook, and I had a lot of classmates or a lot of folks that I knew reach out. They were like, Sheldon, you're an inspiration, motivational. What do I need to do? And I say, okay, first of all, yes, going to the gym is important. Cardio, all those things are important. But I would argue that 80% of the work that needs to be done is in the kitchen. And I
Whoa.
used to hear people say all the time, abs are made in the kitchen. And honestly, I was like, yeah, I hear it one in. It'll go in the ear, one ear, and then come out the other, right? And so like whatever. But I really got really strict and intentional with my diet. I got me a scale, and I started weighing out my food, and I started doing it that way and say, okay, I'm taking exactly 7 ounces of protein, exactly 100 grams of rice, and 100 grams of vegetables or whatever it is, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to divide it, and I'm going to look at my calorie intake, and I'm going to pay attention to all those different things, and the weight just starts to drop off. And not just the weight, but the muscles start to come on as well, because I'm feeding my muscles. I'm very intentional, very specific for my body and my body type. So I tell anybody that is looking to make a change, they're looking at a fitness journey, it starts in the kitchen. That's where it goes. You can get your gym membership, but if you're not eating right, if you're drinking, if you're smoking, if you're eating a bunch of carbs or you're eating a bunch of nonsense, going to Taco Bell late at night because you didn't have time, you're going to Burger King, McDonald's, all these different places, eating all this processed food, or a bunch of sweets, about a bunch of sugar, all those kind of things, it's not going to help you. I've cut out dairy, and I've cut out a lot of things that I used to eat and enjoy all the time from a not necessarily as healthy perspective. And once I started to do that, I start feeling better. My skin feels better. People always mistake me like, wait, you're 40 years old. I'm like, yeah, I'm 40 years old. People say, oh man, I thought you was 27. I walk around campus at school at the university. People think I'm a running back for the team. I'm like, no, I'm 40 years old. I have a PhD. I'm done with school. I can't go anymore. Right. And so I think if you start in the kitchen, that's where to go. Sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to start get my gym membership and I'm going to hit it hard every single day. But if you haven't been working out for years, or if it's just not part of the, if you're trying to develop that routine and you want to go all in, I see too many people fall out, or I see too many people try to go with the food side of things and they do these crash diets. I'm going to try to lose 20 pounds in 30 days. And so they're barely eating, and they're shedding a lot of water weight, but they're not like really healthy dieting. And so what happens, they gain it all, they lose the weight, but they gain it all back and more.
That you're speaking up my alley. That's wonderful. It's surprising, but very, very intentional. It's the reading the labels.
Yeah.
We're on this podcast, we're not advertising, but is there a particular app that helps you, or you just decided to
I will say this.
common sense?
I initially I was just going to the gym, right? I didn't know how important health, food was. And then I was still doing whatever I was doing, is eating whatever I wanted to eat. And I got a coach. I had a coach, a trainer at the gym that I go to. He approached me. He's like, "Hey man, you're looking good. Have you ever considered getting on stage? Would you ever be interested in bodybuilding?" And I was like, "Nah, man, that's not for me. That's nothing I want to do. I'm on stage all the time doing speeches, but I don't want to be like flexing in front of judge or whatever, like that in front of a crowd. That's not the thing that I want to do." But hiring a coach was helpful for me because, again, it provided a lot of accountability. So it was like, yeah, I was initially, before that, I was on my own. And I was out there just trying to, wing it and just eyeballing food and looking up keto and looking up intermittent fasting, just kind of doing things on my own time. But you get to a point where it's like, I've lost all this weight and I was losing weight, but then I kind of just went stagnant. And I needed a little extra push. I needed to figure out what else needed to be done. So it wasn't necessarily that I started going to certain apps. It was actually having a human being that was coaching me. He helped me with meal plans, and he helped me provide, he's like, you need to eat 5 times a day. You need to eat every 3 hours. And this is how much, here's your meal plan. Here's your nutrition. And he would reach out to me. "Hey, Sheldon, how was your day? How did you eat last night? How was your weekend? I know it's weekends can be tempting. Did you do a cheat meal?" Like, he was really on me all the time about my dieting and my eating, and just really coaching, like legit coaching me throughout this process.
So now, would you say that your taste buds have adjusted to the lower sweets and salts?
Let me tell you,
that's one thing I've noticed in our household is that I'm pretty picky about the salt, but so when we go out and eat, we say, "Oh my goodness, this is so salty." I mean, it's adjustment. Yeah.
I remember I was training for my competition, and I was like maybe 3 weeks out, and I had just been, I was eating like very strict. I mean, just to the calorie minimum as far as what I was eating. And I was like just craving a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And so I went to the store, bought me some bread, bought me no sugar jelly. And I ate peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I kid you not, I woke up the next morning. I was so like sick. I just felt so bad. And I was like, what in the heck just happened? And I told my coach about it. And he was like, yeah, because your body's not used to, like, your body's used to eating a certain way, and just the sugar-free jelly and the whole, like, it just was outside of what you've been eating, and your body wasn't ready for it.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to disagree with you a little bit, because as a retired medical oncologist, my go-to for people who needed to gain weight was peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So maybe I'm agreeing with you.
I was cutting at the time.
But that's a good source to me of calories if you need it, and protein. So I thought
so as well.
So you thought?
I thought so as well. So that's why I went and got it. But I wasn't eating in that, like, the way I had been eating, because I was in a cutting phase and I wasn't trying to bulk. It just, my body just was like, "What are you doing, Sheldon?"
Okay. Now tell me, so you bodybuild naturally, is that correct?
Yes.
And so you're not using the anabolic steroids, which landed patients in my office in the past. And so tell me about your last competition.
No, so I So I compete in men's physique. Men's physique is, if you're not familiar with the bodybuilding world, this is not like your Arnold Schwarzenegger's, those big, huge guys that you see with the bodybuilding and wear the little shorts, the little underwear looking speedos and stuff like that. That's not the one I competed in. I competed in men's physique is more you wear like a swim trunks. And their main focus, the judge's main focus is on your shoulders, your back, and your midsection. Those are the three areas that they really judge. And of course, your posing and your charismatic and your personality on stage obviously plays a factor as well. But those are the three body parts that you focus on. And so again, I had been used to being on stage because I do speaking a lot. But I mean, you're up there on stage for like 2 minutes at best, and you're literally holding poses and flexing as hard as you can for that 2 minute stint. And what's funny is because you do like three different. They give you you have like a front pose and then you have a back pose. And so every time the judges would tell me, go, okay, turn to the back. I could look on the screen, I could see the little jumbotron, and I could see myself on the screen, and I'm just pulling myself, like I'm flexing as hard as I can. I'm watching the screen. Okay, all right, I got to make sure these muscles are showing because it was a lot of process, a big process. I think one of the biggest pieces for me was just they told me I had to get a tan. And I just, that was the biggest, like, what the heck? What are you talking about? It was like, yeah, you got to go tan. I'm like, no, I'm already tan, right? I don't want to go do that. Or I can just go outside for a little bit. And no, they were like, no, you need to actually get a spray tan. So that was an interesting moment for me because I've never, gotten a spray tan and paid for a tan at that. So it was weird, but I came out second place. My first time competing. I mean, there were some big dudes out there, and I still was able to pull out second place. I think what really helped me was my posing was really good. My coach is really good at teaching. He really corrected my form with my posing. I think that really helped. And again, all the hard work. I mean, I was training since like January, so that was about 6 months that I was training, and then in the last month or so, you're really cutting hard. And so I think all of that really just helped me to pull out that, second place was really good for me. I was excited.
Amazing. So I understand you want to pass on some of this information to people who may want to get help into getting in shape. I understand you've written a book, Leading Equity.
Mm-hmm.
You're an educator. You're a PhD, and now you are
I'm a trainer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm just a teacher. I'm a teacher by heart, whether if it's whatever it is. I love to teach and I love to help other
Pass
people.
on information.
Yeah, and I have a story. Again, I have a lot of friends who are in positions where I haven't always been fit. Obviously, like I mentioned, I was like I was overweight and I was obese, and I just got to a place where I decided I want to make some changes, and I want to help other people do the same thing. And I just had so many people reach out to me and ask me for support. And they're like, hey, I want to be able to do the same thing. I don't necessarily want to compete, but I want to at least be able to lose weight. Can you help me? And so that's what I do now is I do have some coaching. I actually have a good friend of ours, Alex Horton. I'm working with him.
Okay.
And he reached out to me. He's like, Sheldon, can you help me out? And so I got him on a 60-day plan right now. And I'm coaching him. He's already losing weight. I think he's lost like 12 pounds already over the last couple of weeks. So that's what I do. So if folks are looking for some support, if they're like, I don't know where to get started. And a lot of folks is diet is their main thing. It's like, I know how to, I can go to the gym. I know how to work out and those kind of things. And I'm pretty dedicated there, but I need help in the kitchen. That's an area that I specialize in, if you will, with that as well.
Okay. So before we leave, I do want you to give a shout out to your grandmother.
Yeah.
Now, how old is she?
I think she's 90, in her 90s. I don't know her exact age, but my great grandmother, Mother Dear, she passed away and she made it to 107, I believe. So we just come from a long line of very health-minded, health-conscious individuals that, my grandmother, she's very from the earth. She's vegan, and a lot of her produce, a lot of the food that she eats, she grows herself.
And I
And
believe that
she's
she leads out in exercise classes, or she
yeah,
was at one point. And I know, anyway, that's fascinating.
yeah, yeah. So I have a lot of credit to my grandmother for that as well. So yeah.
Yeah. So one of the goals of this podcast is to pass on wisdom from my generation, and I
Mhm.
just turned big 6'5",
Hey.
to your generation. And I wish that I had known this back then, what I know now. I didn't realize that strength building strength, muscle strengthening exercises was that important.
Yeah.
And there's a recent large study, over 400,000 Americans were followed for a number of years, and found out that if they not only did the aerobic exercises, but the muscle training 1 or 2 hours a week, they lived longer.
Mhm.
Fascinating. Well, anything else you have for me, Dr. Sheldon Eakins, before we wrap up? Or
Well, yeah, the main thing is just take a day at a time. Again, sometimes you look at yourself at the scale, or you look in the mirror and you're just not happy with your results, or maybe you've struggled with weight or in those kind of things throughout your life. I always say just stay encouraged. Don't let those moments really deter you from reaching those goals, because some people will see that and then they'll start eating more, or they'll start perpetuating it even worse. But just take a day at a time. Don't, if it means that you got to stay away from the scale and just start eating and then look at it later on. I personally, I weigh myself every day, but maybe that's not a place where you might be at this moment. But I just say stay encouraged. And if folks want to follow me, my social media is at Eakins Fitness, and Eakins is EAKINS Fitness.
thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sheldon Eakins. I believe your story falls under the category of out of bad comes good, making lemonade out of lemons. The pandemic, the divorce, a good look in the mirror, wanting to be there for your kids, all led you to be in the best shape of your life and now ready to help others. Genesis 50 verse 20 says, "But as for you, you thought evil against me, but God meant it for good." This is Dr. Christine Ince wishing you a balanced, healthy, spirit-filled life. If you enjoyed this program, please give us the thumbs up, 5 stars, share, and subscribe. Thank you.